together.
And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. The secrets behind the deep state killing of the red heifer on the Temple Mount, the ceremony, and Passover revealed. 85,000 years ago, Earth became the last nexus planet in the universe. The full rule of the anti-source over the Earth began around 18,000 years ago. How does this tie into the ceremonies held by the deep state and the secret space program operatives over the weekend? The seventh day of Passover celebrates Moses parting the Red Sea to deliver the Israelites out of Egypt and into the Promised Land, as the story goes. But what really happened on that day? Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian, and she's live.
Hey.
Welcome.
I know. It's not a flood down here anymore, so we're good.
Okay, so everything's dry. You're good. You're sitting on a regular stool, not a boat.
I am, not a boat. We're not rowing anymore, so that's nice. Or bailing, which I did quite a bit of.
No fans like blowing your hair in the wind, like nothing.
We could. They're still here, actually. They're coming to pick them up later on this afternoon. Do you want to get kind of dramatic? Kind of like you did on that bike when you did that, at the NAB.
Oh, my gosh. That was a while ago. I was thinking something like the Titanic, where you could just put your hands out and just...
I can be like the deep state. Oh, I'm the chosen one. No.
So we've got some good stuff to get to today. So
we do.
Yeah.
We're going to have a mixture of a little bit of history and a little bit of deep state, what they were up to this weekend, and kind of where we're at right now as far as the world situation goes. Okay. So let's start with the killing of the red heifer. So we all know the killing of the red heifer is supposed to signify the building of the third temple. Mm-hmm. And the second temple was built by
Solomon.
Okay, very good. Okay, so second temple quiz. You didn't know there was going to be a test today at the end, right?
I didn't know.
All right. So the second temple was built by Solomon. Therefore, this kind of comes into play with why they did what they did. Okay, so they did kill the red heifer. I think it was on the 22nd or 23rd, depending on what time zone you're in. And then they awaited for the seventh day of Passover to apparently perform this ritual. Okay. Now, I've not heard the SSP speak this way ever before. So an alert came up on my system about an anomaly. So when somebody's talking about something that could harm humanity, or there's a potential anomaly, or something's out of character, it comes up as an alert, like something might be going on here. So I was listening to a meeting that was taking place in Portsmouth, Virginia, and it was between some SSP folks. Predominantly, I would say a lot were involved with the Trump operative group, I guess you would say. And these people started talking very biblical, and it was a little bit weird because I've never heard them talk like this before. And they were saying things like, when the sun sets on the kingdom of we shall bask in all of his glory, and the Father will, come to earth and begin the fall of humanity. And it didn't sound like it was a positive thing. It sounded like we were going to start the book of Revelations or something, like, okay, the fall of humanity. Now you've got my attention. What else is he talking about? So apparently they had a chosen one. The chosen one, will come forward, and the Father will come to the chosen one, they're saying. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So had to go take a look at the former kingdom of and where it was. And for those of you that don't know, it's in the Middle East, predominantly in Iraq, and with a little bit of carryover in some other countries in the region, back in the days when we had Mesopotamia and all of these places. So I go over to Iraq, and I'm looking for what they're talking about, because the sun is about to set. It's about 5-10 minutes before sunset in that region, which was about 5:45 p.m. In the evening in local time.
Yeah.
So it brought me to a place called the Great Ziggurat of the Kingdom of Ur. So it's also called the Great Ziggurat of Ur. So you can look that up. Ur being U-R. And I'm looking inside there, and I see about 30 to 40 people roughly, and a guy that looks just like, okay, Donald Trump, right there in the center. Oh no, not kidding. Not kidding in any way, shape, or form. So I'm like, really? You bring masked people even to ceremonies, and you think you're going to fool God or whatever it is you're waiting for? I'm like, that's weird, you know? You've gotten weirder and weirder as time goes on here. So, but yes, nonetheless, they actually did. And I'm watching, you know, I'm kind of watching this all happen. And apparently, they were under the impression that anti-source was going to inhabit this person's body. And they did a lot of preparation work for it. Now, the ceremony was in this particular location because the main throne of Solomon was actually moved here. And in biblical texts, it talks about that the throne of Solomon was moved to Persia. Now, for those of you that don't know, Solomon had, you know, several thrones, but this one here was the first mechanical throne, as they call it, ever made. And the story goes that when they moved it to Persia, it stopped working. Mm-hmm. Now, they say he had 3 or 4 thrones, you know, as guardian. And my guess would be, based on what I saw and based on the rumors, or I guess you would say the prophecies or the stories that are being told to us, I think he took the throne of Source. Because as guardian, not everybody gets a throne or a rod or anything special, but he apparently had a throne for this, which would then start to work and help him in his connection with the Creator. Okay. So the throne was moved to the Great Ziggurat of Ur. And it didn't work, is what the story says, but for some reason the SSP didn't mind that, didn't know why it didn't work, and apparently fake Trump, or whoever this is, has the golden booty to make it function for their side. So this guy went to great lengths to put his best foot forward as the chosen one for anti-source, apparently. This is their father. And he had been doing this process, which kind of looks like bloodletting. If you've ever heard of bloodletting, where they clean, your blood goes through a cleaning machine. It's kind of similar to dialysis, but
okay, yes.
And this machine here is a little bit more esoteric. It also exchanges out your essence and your energy, which is what he thought, I guess, that anti-source would be looking for when he arrived here on Earth to inhabit a human body.
So, in layman's terms, were they trying to make fake Donald Trump the Antichrist?
Not the Antichrist. That's too low. We're going for full-on anti-source here. Because okay. The guardian is actually the representation during the time of neutrality or during a time of the Dark Ages of source itself. That means source, anti-source, and neutral source is what we call it, which is a combination of the two. Okay. So they were separated at the beginning of time, the beginning of all creation, I should say, and the beginning of time, because time was created at the same time. So when they were separated like that, they're still two halves of a whole.
Right.
And so therefore the guardian would be responsible for both sides.
Okay.
During that time. Hence the reason why, my job a few years back before the GOLD agreement was to create balance here on Earth.
Right.
And now that's no longer the case, for the last year and a half, because balance was not possible anymore. And that's when Light Source called the ball. Like, that's it, no more. So they did this bloodletting procedure, which allegedly, according to deep state members I've talked to about it before, say that it lasts for 6 months. So you actually carry the DNA, the essence, and the energy of another human.
Okay.
I don't know how it all works. I don't know much more than that. I just know that it's something that they do when they want to represent that they're someone else. This is also the same thing that they do in some cases when they want to try to pretend that somebody is dead, like we talked about last week. Or this is the same thing that they do when they want to, say that so-and-so committed a crime and they really didn't. And this is only on the highest level of things. This is not something, your average criminal or something would have access to. This is on a fixer level. This is on an SSP level. And apparently this is also on a former president level. Yeah. I know. Little cray-cray. But they believe that he is the chosen one, this new guy here, and they believed that their chosen one was going to be inhabited by Anti-Source, and that he was going to be appointed the guardian for Anti-Source. Now, why did they believe this? They went through the whole ceremony, and they didn't get through the whole ceremony before something struck them all dead. It must have been God. I don't know. And then what happened is the people in Portsmouth said, why has God forsaken us?
Really? They did?
They did. They did. I told you they went all biblical and went a little cray-cray. I don't know what the purpose of this was, but I kind of do in a way. So as guardian, it is pretty well known that I represent the light side of Source. Mm-hmm. Now, trying to achieve balance for all those years never worked. So now I'm pretty much representation of only one side, no balance, no dual gateways anymore, no nothing, because that was the order.
Yeah.
And covenants expired between allegedly the two halves of Source and Anti-Source, and everything kind of went rapid fire about January 2023. So I wasn't responsible for that anymore. Mm-hmm. But they thought if you have one representing Source, then you surely should have one representing Anti-Source. Source is not represented, Anti-Source is not represented on this planet anymore. So we're going to put forward our person that went through this genetic modification to try to be what they deemed as the chosen one for Anti-Source.
Wow. Okay.
I know. Take it all in.
And you said there were like 30 or 40 people that were part of this ceremony?
Yeah. There might have been somewhere between 30 and 40, probably 36 people or so. I didn't count. And this person was walking over to the throne of Solomon to do his representation of Anti-Source. Now, to be fair, this particular temple was built around a very dark portal with a lot of space junk under it. So there was a reason for it. They say the temple was built there about 4,000 years ago, which would kind of line up somewhat with the reign of Solomon, maybe not 100%, but it would have been around that time that they moved over there. So my guess would be when Source left Solomon because he was not following the balance plan, at the time, my guess would be he decided to see if he could just get some Anti-Source up in there completely, and then realized that that chair didn't work anymore. So I'm guessing that's what happened and how it got there in the first place. But these people were going to take full advantage of it. So in their rant, they started going a little bit crazy and said that it would be another 10,000 years before an event like this happened. Well, this is where we disagree. I think it'll be never will it happen again.
Yeah.
But in order to fully understand why I say it'll never happen again, and so let me tell you. So let's talk about Passover and what it really represents. There are a lot of biblical references in here during Passover, but Passover is actually a time where several thousand years ago, my guess would be it had to be about 18,000 years ago, where the then guardian, because our timelines in biblical books and all these things are way off. Adam and Eve, when they were here, way off, like way off. But they have to fit it into the story into terms that human beings can actually understand. So this happened around that time, best I can tell, and this may have resulted in the eventual flood, another flood that happened, and the replacement of our moon into a megastructure that we have now. So somewhere, I'm going to say, I don't really know exactly. Somewhere between 25 and 18,000 years ago, as best I can tell, is when this whole event took place. Okay. And every year during Passover, there's an opportunity during because we are a nexus planet, and we've been a nexus planet for about 85,000 years. We have been a nexus planet for a lot longer, but we at 85,000 years ago became the only nexus planet left standing in the third density.
Why, Kim? Like, what happened? Was there, did some planets disappear, or what happened?
Mm-hmm. Because they didn't actually disappear. What happened is they were destroyed. All life on them was destroyed. They were completely wiped out and taken over by what you could call the dark forces, right? The lower astral beings. So we were the only ones left with an actual gateway. Now, as far as light forces are concerned, we did not think that they would destroy it because that would eliminate all access to this side of the multiverse, and that probably wouldn't happen. But this is where your stories about, what is it called? Not Terra, the other planet. Anyway. No, it begins with a T as well. That's why I'm like, Terra, no, that's not it. It'll come to me during the broadcast. I didn't write it down. So when we became the only Nexus planet, and then since that time, I should say, there was always a guardian here on Earth. As a Nexus planet, we would always have a guardian here. And at that particular time that I'm referring to, that guardian was a person you know as Moses. And Moses, they talk about Moses' staff and that kind of thing. I would actually refer to it as the rod of God. Now, the rod of God isn't a singular thing. However, one is very powerful. The rod of God is an energy rod, which has great powers. It can conduct source energy. It can also be reworked into a different metamaterial and conduct anti-source energy. And then if you have a neutral rod, it means you can conduct either one. Mm-hmm. Now, my guess would be is that Moses chose to conduct source energy at that particular time. So they talk about the parting of the Red Sea in the Bible. But it was so much more than that, which then caused our Passovers to be dark ever since. Mm-hmm. So the parting of the Red Sea wasn't just about some water and some people going from one place to another, although it's told to us in the Bible in terms that we can understand. Mm-hmm. Parting of the sea, miraculous event, obviously a miracle from God. People passed on to the promised land and to safety. Yeah. But he actually opened up the gateway because it's a one time of year where source and anti-source pass the closest over Earth to have an event happen, let's just say. Now, the gateway to source is opened up in the causal plane. And it's the one time the guardian of the Nexus planet has the ability to do that, to open up the gateway in the causal plane. And as we remember in the charts that we put out, the causal plane is represented by red. And it's not the causal plane itself, it's the overlay over the causal plane from the halls of Amente. And this is where all things come into being in this density, where matter comes into being and is no longer kind of looking etherical like. Now you're starting to form a more solid body, a more solid vessel, I should say, and this density for many different reasons. So since that time, Source, anti-source, I should say, passed over the earth, and they ensured, meaning the dark side, that Source was not allowed in at that time. So we only had anti-source pass over. And because the guardian then was the one that opened the gate to the promised land, aka Source, to the planet, they took full advantage of it and flipped it the other way around. So every year on Passover, we have anti-source. And in Bible terms, they talk about death passing over your door, or in the Torah. And you have to put the thing out front, or kill the sheep, or put the blood of something, the blood or whatever to protect you from the Passover of death. And in kind of a way, that's sort of true. But the event that could change that and reverse that out only happens, or has happened, a few times in Earth's history. And I disagree with the 10,000 years. I think it's more about 12,000 years. Every so often, there's an opportunity for something to change. Mm-hmm. Now, we took full advantage of this situation and reversed it back out during that time frame. Around 3 o'clock Eastern time yesterday is when it hit its peak. And we started working feverishly at 2:30 as to not let them know that that's what we were doing, and reversed it out. So now we don't have dark Passovers anymore, which is a positive for humanity. Now we have a Passover of Source on this planet. But that still left the deep state a little disappointed. And they figure they have 2 more days of Passover is what they're talking about. And is there something else they can do? Now, they're still running around like all of a sudden that they're the chosen ones of God, even though God struck them dead in the temple on Solomon's throne. But, why not, right? Let them continue. So we're listening to them some more today. And they had a meeting in the afternoon yesterday with a lot of operatives, NSA people, even CIA people, and, those DARPA folks, that kind of thing, were on the call because they had pre-scheduled this call based on their upcoming success.
That's what they do. They think they're going to be successful, and they schedule all this stuff, and then they, have to eat crow.
Yes. Yes. So they, I guess, believed that their person, whoever this person was going to be able to successfully battle with me on an equal and opposite level. That's what they were thinking. And that they surely would prevail. And somehow this was all going to miraculously happen by 3 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday. Very strange. Yeah. So, oh dear. So they get on the call with the operatives because now they have to say something. If they don't show up, it'll be another no-show on another call. And they can't do that because they're about to lose their, friends, I guess you would say. And so they get on the call quickly and they say to them, "We won. No details. We won, no details, and no questions at this time. Click."
Sorry. I feel like it's like what a toddler would do. No, I won. I don't care. Game over.
Yeah. It's like, like your 2-year-old coming over and, you're playing a board game of some sort or another, maybe with your other kids, and then they just get on and they walk all over it and go, I won, and then walk away. Yeah.
That's pretty much. Yeah.
So that kind of left everybody really angry. Like, what do you mean no details? What do you mean no, information and that kind of thing? And then they began to talk amongst themselves. And they were having more conversations with more people that had not yet even knew we existed.
Okay.
And that there was an equal and opposite force. So they started gathering information. They had gone to the archivist over the weekend. This is just as on an individual basis, as a fixer, a freelancer, an operative. For lack of a better term, you can think of this group of people as very high level, highly sophisticated Raymond Reddingtons from the Blacklist, if you've ever watched that show. So that's kind of who they are. There's not an allegiance to a government, though, in this particular case, one or the other. They may have their own personal feelings, but personal feelings doesn't get in the way of taking jobs or money or getting hired out or contracted out. Now, the other thing that some blonde lady might have leaked out, which is 100% true from what I had heard. Mm-hmm. So before the event took place on Sunday, other calls took place on Saturday. And these guys started telling the operatives that we no longer have to work for the dark side and the deep state. And we are with you guys. We're just like you. And we are sick and tired of those people not paying us. Aren't we all sick and tired of not getting paid? And they started manipulating them into thinking that they're bros now. They're comrades, they're brothers, and we're going to do this together, and we don't need to talk to her. I'm still her or she only. I feel like a pronoun. Her, she, we don't have to talk to her. We don't have to talk to them because we're going to gain control ourselves for our group, and we're your friends. Now, that's not entirely true because they did the same exact thing to the elite. To the black nobility, to everyone. We don't need those operatives. All you really need is us. We're happy to take control. We have figured out the key and the secret, and we will help you, and we'll still make sure that you maintain your elite status and your power and that kind of thing. But we'll be running the show behind the scenes from here on out. And, but we'll allow you access and keep you going. Now, the next thing that we found out is they also had this conversation that they were going to be in charge with so many people. I don't even know how they did it. They must have a Jerry Lewis telethon, you remember those back in the day, big phone tree or something like that, because they called everybody and put the same message out to everyone that we're your friends, we're your buddies, we're going to make this happen for you. I would make sure if something would work before I would say anything to all of you or to anybody for that matter. If it doesn't work, then, okay, well, or, I'll say, hey, you're surprised we did this or we did that, so that then you would say, okay, well, then, the thing works, whatever the thing is. But no, not for these people. So the position they were trying to put themselves in is a position I like to call the kingmaker. So it's better to be the kingmaker than to be the king because no one kills the kingmaker, but everybody wants to kill the king for power and control. Little do they know that it's the kingmaker that they're looking for. Do they have the capacity to fulfill any of these promises? No. Are they ever going to fulfill any of these promises? No. But they still think that they have time. Not really. Places that they should look to see if they have time left would be for lack of a better term, let's call it the Passover dial of destiny. So the Passover dial of destiny, prior to us being a nexus planet, prior to, has probably existed for at least 250,000 years, tells you who's going to control the causal plane for the next year, I guess you would say, till the next Passover time. That place is actually in the caves, the Hercules caves in Morocco. So real close to their favorite place, Egypt. You can see, if you go there, that there is no possibility for anti-source coming back. Now, it gauges the essence, energy, consciousness, matter, frequency, all of that of planet Earth, and then it makes a decision to sway dark or light. It has been dark for a very long time. It hasn't changed because it was manipulated into being dark for a very long time by the dark forces. So if they want to know if there's a possibility of it coming back, you should go there and check it out, Deep State people, because it's not coming back. Next year is not another year. You can't put things off for another year because for, let's just say, a multitude of reasons of why you cannot put this off for another year. So we'll talk about those reasons now. Okay. Number one, we are going to see their systems of the dark side failing bit by bit, piece by piece. Those systems would include banking systems, government systems, corporation systems, nobility lines, religious systems that they control. Their control over those types of things will start waning and going away. They can't afford to pay attention. I know they can't afford to pay attention, these guys, because I know that they borrowed $30 million from the Sultan of Bahrain in the last week or two, promising he was going to be the chosen one. And I think he was the only one with enough money left to actually pay. Mm-hmm. So, did this fund this grandiose display of whatever in Iraq? I have no idea. In part, I'm sure it did. Did it keep them going for a few days? I'm sure it did. But is it going to make for a continuation of government? Did they share any of this money with any operatives? Probably not. I'm sure they used it to run this elaborate scheme that yet again failed. Mm-hmm. So do I ever see these people coming into power to be the kingmaker like they say? No. I believe that a few things are going to take place first. Number one, we will be successful, meaning we have been very successful in cleaning up this planet and making sure no negative events happen here that are going to cause a major genocide effect for at least the last couple of years, ever since the creation of the key intelligence and military system. Number two, based on the last meeting that took place, I think it was this morning, between the almighty religious people now all of a sudden, and the operatives, the meeting kind of went like this, because now the Raymond Reddingtons of the world, or the operatives and freelancers and fixers of the world, make the world go round. And they can make it go around in a bad way, and they can make it go around in a positive way. Depends on the jobs they want to take. Now, jobs cost money. They don't have any. Therefore, they haven't taken a job from either side. So understand those people. This is not your average agency person you see on some criminal show somewhere, or CIA show, or James Bond. It's not those people. And they told them this morning, when there was no pay and no money, and no contracts, of course, and no time for a contract, and no new date or no new anything, that they would all be damned to hell if they didn't follow them, because they are the chosen ones of God.
Yeah, people use the word God, but they're not specific on who God is.
Yeah.
Which God are you referring to? Most people don't even know there's an anti-source.
I know. Well, they know about a Lucifer,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They know about that, or a Satan, or, a dark overlord, or a dark power of the multiverse, or something like that. And maybe they use a different description of what that is and how and why it was created. Mm-hmm. But I will say that nobody bought this.
Good.
They have said things like, now we know who she is. We have been watching her. We have been watching her make progress. We can see the progress because these guys are on the top of things. Maybe you can't see it in mainstream media sometimes. Maybe it takes a little while to come out, like a change in creation and other things science is now talking about that we talked about a year ago. So maybe it just takes time. And maybe you really have to look sometimes. But these guys see it on the top level of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So they are seeing changes. They're seeing an operation being run by someone who has a strategic mind, kind of like they do, and that runs with precision. So everybody has a tell in their world. When it's on that level of things, there's not that many of them. And I would say that they all have a signature move or something that tells people it was them, or it gets around. It's a very small circle. It's like Wall Street. Nepotism, reigns large there. And amongst these guys, they all know who's doing the job where and that kind of thing. And, I don't know if they have a communication system or something, but they all manage to confer with each other when they're going to be going to a place that might be in somebody else's territory, that kind of thing, or, where they hire people. And it's not dark web things like CIA and agency stuff. It's done a old school way and a very different way. So they are seeing changes that are being made. Now, it's no surprise to me that over the weekend there was an article written about ground command with no name attached to it. Mm-hmm. The reason why there was no name attached to it, remember now, all of a sudden the Space Force are the chosen ones of God. What? I don't know. So they were basically trying to claim to operatives and everyone else that it was them running this. Their ground command, no. They were going to come out with Trump's ground command, maybe. I don't know. Or fake Trump or whoever that is, whatever it is in the media. But I don't know. The only thing I know is that I don't see any of these people in my day-to-day 10, 12, 15, 18-hour days. And I didn't see anybody doing anything but trying to raise the Antichrist over there in Ziggurat, the Ziggurat of Ur. So, a little bit crazy. So where we lay today is interesting things are happening. We are having individuals, like people with the SES or Senior Executive Services, inquire about who this person is. They used to exclusively work for the Crown or with Rothschild family Etal around the world. They were more of a financial arm of the group, I would say, financial operatives, I guess you would call them. They had an enormous facility underneath Manhattan in New York, and there was also smaller facilities under Piccadilly Circus in London and a few other places in the world like Dubai. And these guys thought that they were really trying to make something happen. But they finally have come to the conclusion, at least some of them, and the rest of them should be all getting on a call later on this afternoon, to let them know what they've found out. That the people they're working for do not have any financial control. They do not, because remember, they're very compartmentalized, so they do not have any financial control. They have no way of recovering financial control. And therefore, if they're going to work for anyone or with anyone, it should probably be us if they want to maintain a position. There was a lot of talk about continuance of government. Are we going to have continuance of government? Said the political operatives, freelancers, and fixers that have been involved in this crazy show this weekend. And the answer to the question is, I have no idea, and that's kind of up to you now, isn't it? But I can tell you that I'm not interested in dead presidents or crazy people that think they're going to run a group of fixers and freelancers by touting that they are the chosen ones of God and they'll all be damned to hell if they don't do what they say. Mm-hmm. That is not a thing. Number one, you're kind of all sovereign in the eyes of God anyway, and it's every man or woman for himself. And like any good father, if you make a mistake or do something in your life that you feel that the church would say you were condemned for, that is a lie, because you wouldn't condemn your own kids. If they might do things you don't like quite a bit, even as adults and grown-ups, and you might see them, headed for a train wreck there, but it's still their choice and their decision. And you just have to be there to help them along their way, give your opinion if it's asked for, and, hope that you've raised them right, into good adults. And even if 10 years passed and they came back to you and said, I'm sorry, I didn't do the right thing, and, I apologize, and that kind of thing, you'd still take them back because they're your kids.
Yeah.
Most of us would anyway. Good parents do. That being said, it's the same thing with your father. He's not going to hate you because you made a mistake or anything like that. And if you are a political operative, chances are, or any other kind of operative, chances are, you've probably done your fair share of things. And I don't remember them mentioning at any point in time that for doing the things that you were doing, we're going to damn you to hell before. Why now? They weren't the chosen ones last week of God. Now all of a sudden they're the chosen ones of God and they're the kingmakers of earth. Nah, never going to happen.
Yeah.
No, not going to happen. None on our watch, none anytime soon. That's the end of that. So I do see some positive things changing, meaning more people are getting word of who ground command is. More information is getting out there on an individualized basis. They're pulling information, files, things that we've done that they only probably have heard of in some ways, shapes, or forms. They're sending their people. They've got people and networks around the world to go look at certain places to see if those things really exist or don't exist. They're pulling conversations that I had with, in the past, face to face, as an example, with things that do not look like you and I. That's for sure. So they're doing their research. They're in the process of that. But one thing is for sure is they are saying that we are moving forward. They are seeing us make changes. They are seeing us try test transfers of the first money one these people have ever seen in their life, because money one is not normal. Now, banking descriptions of money one and money one as positively charged zeros and ones and those types of things are completely different on my level of things. So they're seeing us make positive movements forward. I'm constantly moving forward every day. Now, the things that they say they're doing, no one actually sees anything. Mm-hmm. Can you prove it? Can you show us that's what's happening? No, they can't. So that's pretty much where we're at right now with the World Situation Report. Right now they're in neutral, which is a positive thing, because these are the people that move the world. And they're not moving in our direction yet, which is okay. And they're not moving in their direction yet. So that's positive at the moment. Mm-hmm. Will that change in the near future? I think it will. The other positive thing that I overheard from the newly founded Bible people was I'm sorry, it's just funny to hear them talk like that. The other thing that I heard was about them talking about if she drops $1, we're done.
I believe that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So is that a positive thing for us? I think so, yes. Because do they really believe it? Will they really adhere to what they say? Do they really, truly, from the bottom of their soul, feel like they are done at that point? If that is the case, hallelujah. Because, hallelujah, because finally, So I am very much looking forward to seeing if that is the case in the very near future. We're always making progress every day. We're always finding other things out there, that kind of stuff. The good news is it's been a really long, long time since a human has actually blocked us from doing anything.
Yeah.
So that's a positive for us. Still a pain, and I have earned my 10,000th degree in sanitation engineering, and I'm kind of over it right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But the good news is going forward is a positive thing.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. You said that they're having another meeting today to update everyone on what they found.
They are. So I think that meeting is about 2 or 3 o'clock Eastern time. So it hasn't happened yet. So I'll be reporting on what happens on Wednesday.
Okay.
Oh, don't forget, everyone. I will see you tonight on George Eisman. The interview starts at 6 my time, so 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to catch it live, it'll be on his channel, and then it will eventually be on ours. He always sends us a copy.
Yeah, they have to put you on the episode where it doesn't stay up on YouTube. Because the stuff we talk about is so, controversial for some people, and, YouTube would flag it and stuff. So you're always a Monday person on George's show.
I know, right?
That's good. That's good. And like you said, we'll get a copy of it, I'm sure, to be able to put up on our app. So
absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, we will see you on Wednesday. Maybe not see you on camera, but we'll talk to you on Wednesday. Good luck tonight on George's show.
Thank you.
Okay.